The only rules you have are what people will care about what you say. There is no producer. There is no budget. There is no nothing.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 32 of the Construction DorkCast. We are mad about innovation. In this episode, we nerd out with Steve Whitmer of ACCO and Jeff Elwell of Duggan to hear about how two of the more quote-unquote mad scientists are approaching tech and innovation within their companies. As always, these conversations are inspiring and fun, and maybe a little bit therapeutic as we all laugh at our shared pains.
All right, and we're live. Episode 32. We're mad about innovation. That's right. I'm yelling it at you. That's because I was typing in all caps when I wrote it. There was a reason for that. I bet you all know why, so I don't have to explain it. And if you don't know, then ask somebody who does the BIM, and they'll tell you why. They always use caps lock. All right. Before we get this thing kicked off, the dorks have some publicity to talk about. That's right. We're going to be live at the Stratus Users Conference, Innovate, September 28th to 30th in Denver. So if you want to shake your favorite dork's hand or buy us a drink, because we actually prefer that, show up.
Buy us a drink.
Be there or be square. Buy us a drink.
Buy us a drink.
Buy us many drinks. We will drink many drinks.
Mark Jones is in the audience. Mark, buy me a drink. Nathan's in the audience. I owe Nathan too much money.
Yeah.
To buy him a drink.
Nathan, don't buy us anything. Just take it off our tab. Would you?
Take it off our tab,
Take it off
Nathan.
the tab. There you go.
Yeah.
It's in Denver, or I would say Trent might be showing off his swimming skills. Just something we talked about this weekend. You never know. But there's not a lot of water there, so I don't think it's going to happen. All right.
We'll find something.
Let's get this thing started because we have two of the true mad scientists of the industry, people I've been following since the beginning, Jeff Elwell and Steve Whitmer joining us. So we're gonna get over to them because it's all about practitioners today. I think it's gonna get super geek, super dork. Let's go. But tonight I am brought to you by the Hotel Bar in the wonderful Weston Riverfront here in San Antonio, Texas.
Nice.
So James, I'm close enough to spit at you if I had a good one. But we're here down in Texas, here for the ASP conference. So coming to you live from here. Got to spend the week with the boys. It's a did I say what it was? It's a Woodford. Nope. That's what it is. It's from the bar downstairs, but it's a Woodford. So thank you very much. Jonathan, why don't you kick it off?
I have I don't usually Lefroy Select, which is a good scotch. Tastes a little like feet, but I've been vaccinated, so now it tastes like flowers. I don't know how that happened, but I think that's what they're doing. And I'm trying to take it easy, but I definitely needed a scotch after all the bourbon at the innovation group over the last couple of days.
Awesome. Trent.
All right. I'm gonna keep making fun of Travis as we're going. But this is a local one near me, and they call it the hop supremacy, Travis. And I think what they do is they just fill the can with hops and then just like pour a little bit of toilet water over it or something.
Sounds perfect. Sounds right up your alley. After that beer I accidentally drank this week of yours, I would see that you would love some toilet water.
I mean, hey,
you gotta know what you like, right?
You got to be you. So,
well, since
right.
I guess I'm speaking. I brought back another. I think we had it the last time. The Liesel Weapon, German style Hefeweizen. So it's very, very crisp and nice. It's still summertime here, so it's a nice crisp beer for these hot summer days. So, Steve, what you got?
Steve's still in the office, so Steve's got a nice glass of agua here. But I'll tell you, at home, got a couple of cases, some good 21st Amendment, some blood orange IPA. Can't wait to get home and get those bad boys.
Oh, another IPA, Travis. There we go.
Yeah, I know. Some people like terrible beer. I don't understand it.
They've had the shot. You never know.
Better.
All I have to do is see the popularity of Pabst. The way Pabst came back, you realize people like terrible beer.
Yeah, this is true.
I'm with you, Steve. It's all good.
Yeah.
So is now the time to bring up my triple IPA?
Now you're talking. Take another level.
Yeah. I got a Second Wind Brewing triple IPA. I was just reading it. It's with pureed Valencia oranges and milk sugar. that seems like a lot, but I'm in it. I like it. It's good.
Nice.
The hell is milk sugar?
Milk sugar.
I was just going to ask you guys, but I didn't want to sound stupid.
It's innovative. It's
Right.
It's innovative.
See, Jonathan, what I like to do is take products that already exist and add them to my beer.
I just like to take products that already exist and make them just a teeny bit better, and then really talk about that teeny bit better.
Oh my God, you guys are awful.
Oh, here we go.
And actually, I think the milk sugar comes from Milk Bar. If you haven't seen this thing, it was a spinoff, and our boy Sean, if he's listening, will get it. David Chow's restaurant. He had a pastry chef who worked for him who started making all of her, and I'm awful for not remembering her name, but all her desserts with cereal milk. So it was like pre-sweetened milk, and it's awesome. And she started this whole thing called Milk Bar, and she's taken off on her own. So total tangent, but yes, it is a thing. So that I'm guessing that's where it's from. But all right, let's spin it back and let's talk about innovation versus I'm not going to go there. We're going to just start. Jeff, you didn't even kind of give an intro to where you're from, what you do.
Yeah, Steve didn't either. We got to get that back in.
Yeah. So we'll start with Steve. We'll go in reverse order. Jeff, you start with, who you are, where you're from, and hell, what the hell you're up to.
Cool. So my name is Jeff Elwell, as you can see under my picture. And I am from Boston, Massachusetts. I work in Canton, Massachusetts. I work for a company, Duggan. We are a mechanical contractor, so anything that has anything to do with pipe, like most of you, we're all about it, and everything else. So I started there 5 years ago. I was, like many of you, a BIM guy. That was my title, BIM guy, all around BIM. And so from there, we decided that we were going, actually, it was kind of from JB Knowledge's whole mad scientist thing that I got my current position, which is Director of Innovation and Technology. And really what that is it's, 50% of it's the technology around the company and everything that we're currently using. And the other 50% is everything else, whatever we can do to improve the lives of our people with technology is what we're doing. And even if it's what I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about, what I talk a lot about with you guys every time I'm with you is, taking stuff that exists either in other sectors or that we're not using as efficiently as we should be, or that could use a new look and giving that to my people. And that's my job. For me, I feel like I work in Disney. Like I just play with cool stuff all day. It's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And before he started talking, we were talking, and we all agree that if Jeff's job opened, we are all applying for Jeff's job simultaneously at
Don't
once.
say that.
Hey,
Don't say that.
Duggan, I'll do it for $1 less than Jeff is right now.
Jeff, you need to have a golden ticket contest you just send them out there, say, hey, listen, you have to drink enough beer to get these golden tickets, but we'll send out 3 and you can come and visit the lab.
So I think that I just hire you all. That's my thought, but we can talk about that after the pod.
For $1 less than you make?
For $1 less, $2. I like to really make sure I feel good about myself.
True bargain buyer. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, why don't you give us a little intro? Let everybody know who you are if they don't already, and if they're not joining us online, then they can't read your name. So.
Sure. I'm Steve Whitmer. I'm Steve Whitmer from ACCO Engineer Systems. We're a large mechanical sheet metal, piping, plumbing process, a little bit of industrial, starting to get into a little bit of electrical down south, predominantly on the West Coast, California, Washington, Oregon, a little bit in Nevada, those kinds of areas. I myself, been manager, a little bit of construction technology as well. I've been doing this since about 2005 when I got out of college. I was an engineer coming out of college. The one thing I didn't want to do ever was to work in HVAC. And of course, that's where I ended up was in HVAC. But I enjoy BIM. It's to me, it's that integral part between the design and the construction, and having that handoff is incredibly important. I saw that when I first came in to see a construction department looking at an engineer drawing, like, oh, this is just a schematic. Well, we'll figure out how to build it when we get there. So picking up that efficiency and figuring that out. Lately, what we've really been into since COVID hit, we slowed down a bit and we kind of took a step back, look at all of our internal processes and really try to dial those in as much as possible. So what we actually did was we kind of went around, talked to superintendents, talked to field people, and kind of, hey, what are some pinch points for your guys? What can we make your life better? And then also on the detailing side too, right? We're getting to the point where we're getting very efficient within Revit, but there's all the tools that come in with that. And how do I make myself more efficient than I was in CAD as well? I always ask these guys, like, hey, you could do what you were doing in CAD as fast as you're doing Revit. How do we make it faster? How do we cut the time out? I don't know about you guys, but I get bitched out about detailing hours all the time. So my number one priority is, how do I get stuff off that plate? How do I get it more automated? And even more than that, how do I get those guys concentrating on detailing and coordinating, not setting up files and downloading stuff and having computer problems, all that ancillary stuff that gets thrown in there. I see that as a big priority of mine, of get that stuff out of there so these guys can do what we paid them a lot of money to do, which is detail and coordinate.
Right.
That is really, really, really good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could I throw out the first question to Steve, because it kind of piggybacks on that? So Steve, one of the reasons that I really wanted to have you on is because we put MAD in the title, but we put it in big letters, and I think you're at the center of one of the largest and most diverse contractors I've ever seen. Your firm doesn't work like other firms where everything's centralized. Your firm has all these little dynamic like cells out there, sort of almost competing against each other. So if anybody is going to be frustrated by trying to implement tech, if anybody is going to be mad about the way that technology and innovation happens, it's got to be you, because you can get one cell running and the other cell can run out of control right then. So like,
Yes.
Knowing that you're in this weird situation, what are the things that you hear again and again from these cell groups that make you say, oh my gosh, I have to get them this technology? What is it, the pain points, or are they coming to you directly with ideas saying, oh, we just saw the new HoloLens, we want to get that put in, or something like that?
I get a mix of both. To be honest with you, when somebody sees a product or something out there, they'll come and talk to me. But to be honest with you, like you said, it's a very dynamic company. We have a lot of opinions. There may be other opinions out there that don't necessarily agree that it's a good tool and it's really going to get us the value that people see. So I have to walk that fine line in some cases. So just to kind of explain how ACCO works, ACCO basically every PM is almost their own little company, right? So they have the ability to price work. They usually use ACCO as basically a tool to execute the work, and that's kind of how we see it. So as Jonathan was saying, there is no standard at ACCO. Well, we're trying to create a standard, but really what it is almost a recommendation. It's, hey, this is the workflow we would recommend you. If you follow this is the time that we can save you. But I got a lot of people that don't necessarily want to follow that for whatever reason. And some of them are completely valid reasons that, maybe it's a smaller job. Maybe they've been doing this for 50 years and they may just know some other ways, some other corners to cut things like that. But it is always a challenge. And I think where I actually get most grief from it is actually from the detailing department, because they see the differences from job to job, and obviously they see successes, right? They say, hey, this worked well in my last project, I want to do it again. But the next PM may not see the same way. They may have a different procedure, those kinds of things. So it's always that kind of give and take. But we do have some specific, hey, these are our core values within detailing. These are the things that we provide you. We have a list of all of our packages. That's not negotiable. If you do BIM on a project, you're getting Trimble files, you're getting hanger fabrication, because that's what our shop and our field expects. It's not necessarily what you sold as your vision. You sold that ACCO is going to do the work. Well, ACCO is telling you that they're going to do this work by prefabricating, by doing any kind of automation that's possible. So we need to spearhead that effort to get there. So in some cases, I kind of have two different clients. I have my construction department and I have my PM department. Now, most of the time, our detailers are kind of, construction is their boss, right? Because that's the guy's ordering the material. That's the guy who needs to install the material. But back to your original question about technology, it does make it challenging to push things in different places. What I do have, though, is I have a couple of test places, right? I have a small office in Sacramento. We can try something out there, in a smaller environment. It's hard to try something out here in the office I am, because we have 80 detailers, right? And as soon as one guy sees something that they like, oh, the next guy wants to implement it. Well, maybe it's not really ready for full-blown scaled up implementation. Maybe it's still kind of in a phase where we're working out some kinks. So
what made you decide to make them victims?
Let's just say it was driven from the top down. Down. Well, no, I mean, like I said, it's really, we're a very nimble company, and we do a lot of different kind of work. And what we found is there's no one size that fits all, and particularly when it comes to BIM, right? Because not only for ourselves to put a ton of value in the model, the question too is what other contractors are putting value in the model? What, is this a full-fledged coordination? We still have jobs that we come on, an electrician doesn't want to participate, or the fire sprinkler, or drywall, right? Drywall participates on maybe a quarter of the projects. So how far can we really take it? It's also, so it is a case-by-case thing. I have some very powerful and very good PMs that like to sit down with me and plan out their work. I'll be honest, they're probably a little more of the successful ones when they get the value out of BIM, because we're able to explain to them when we're going off the rails quicker than others. But it's always that dialogue. It's always that conversation back and forth.
So Jeff, you're kind of a more organized, office. How do you see your PMs react? Is it the same thing? There's too many Jeffs. There's too many.
I thought you meant I was more organized. Yeah, no. I could have said what Steve just said. So yeah, I think that I also think that a lot of people don't understand the full capabilities of it. And like, if it takes a little longer for a detailer, if it takes a little longer for a PM, if it's not for you, that's kind of what we have trouble with. It's for the people in the field to do things more efficiently. And my job is to, solve that from detailing to the field, and the more, showing the detailers how we're actually getting more of an advantage and more time back, even if it takes you a little longer or the same amount of time as it would to design in Academy P or PD 3D or whatever, but yeah, it's the project managers, I feel like, are always pulled 100 different ways, and technology is something that's kind of just there and that they use and interact with, but don't think about, how you got to that point where they're looking at a model on Procore or Stratus or whatever else. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the hardest hurdles, is to kind of, and like you said, like I have the same thing, 80 designers, and you roll it out to one person, they like it, and then you roll it out to the other person, they hate it, and then someone wants something completely different, and then it's, and so that's the hurdle too, is getting everyone on the same page. And when you have, like anything, you have 30, 40 years difference between some project managers with experience and age and whatever else. And some of them are going to say like, yep, I'll use everything because I know the value of it. And some of them are going to say, I've been doing this the same way for 25 years and I see no. And those are the people that if you convince everyone, and so that's the people you spend more time on, and you try to get them so they're, the simpler wins. Like, I like little wins. I like small wins that make a big wave. That's my mantra.
Yeah, you sort of ride that wave, don't you? Over the years, you've sort of found the one that you can kind of kick and then jump on and ride the wave all the way home. But when I've always been interested in, and Jonathan and I have argued over the years, of those ideas that are not scalable. I wonder what it is that when you go to, how does that play in? Like, either you guys, I mean, especially because ACCO's, you guys got it different. So Jeff, I'm going to start with you. When you're looking at it, do you look at scalability as part of your evaluation process, or does that come out in the laundry? What's up?
Yeah. So earlier in my career, I didn't really think about that stuff. And now, after post-traumatic stress kicks in from the failed, the failed things from before, then you're like, oh yeah, okay, well, you're gonna have to start looking at that. So now everything goes through a process. So I have identified a list of, the champions of technology at the company, the people that if I push it out to them first, they'll give me an honest opinion. They know enough to tell me yes or no. And I also, like, something I say all of the time to my superiors is, if 20% of the stuff that I try out works out well and scales and is implemented and used for a year, that's a win. we're looking at so much stuff all of the time.
Right.
Like if you look at your email, I bet right now I've had 5 or 10 different software companies email me with some new software they have that is going to change the industry. And you are, Jeff, you are the only one big on my screen right now, so I am talking directly to you, but not actually. And so so that's I need to identify it. Okay, the first step is this going to, if it works completely perfectly, is this going to be something that's going to make our company better? And then it's starting to ask the more granular questions. How many people can I actually get into this? How long has this been around? That's a huge one for us. Like, I'll put 10 people on something that was invented yesterday, but I'm not putting a whole company on something that it was invented yesterday, and it's all those questions you ask yourself and try to make sure that, the things that you're doing are worth it on an entire company level. That's the big part of that. And actually, Steve said something earlier that I want none of us own, well, me and Steve at least don't own the companies we work for. Like, it's all about the people that own those companies and that are the head of those companies that are able to, put the trust in people like us to have that 20-30% success rate and still understand that they need that to continue to push forward, And so, yeah, I mean, all of those things are worries though. And even with something like I'll say Procore, just because that's a tried and tested, like everyone's used Procore, and a company like that, at the wrong time, the wrong implementation, the wrong, whatever, going from one thing to another that doesn't really make sense, that could still fail. It's all about it's nothing scales right if you're not taking those things into account.
That's super awesome. Actually, you're absolutely right. It's not a knock on the software. Sometimes if it's not scalable, it's not scalable because the problem's not scalable, right? So there's a multitude of factors that go into analyzing that. I love to always have that argument. But Steve, I bet you have. I mean, I want to take like Jeff's, and you've got it on a macro level with a micro issue of the cells that you all have created. Like, how do you even deal with that? I'm going to be honest. How do you deal?
Well, to be honest with you, we've gotten better over the past few years. We've our company at times in the past have kind of worked as smaller independent companies in different regions, right? But we saw it as a need to really get it more corporate, get standards in place, because we saw we are running parallel in work as well as kind of stepping on each other's toes, right? Hey, I got a procedure here. Hey, you got a procedure down south. One of them's got to be a little bit better than the other, right? I mean, somebody's cut a little bit more fat off it than the other person is what you would like to assume, right?
Right. Before you go any further, are you talking process there or tech? Both?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's a critical one too, because they can be different.
Absolutely. And now often the tech is a component of the process, right? We're using bits and pieces of technology to fulfill a process, things like that. But kind of going back to the scalability as a whole, I was just like Jeff when I got here, and this software makes sense to me. It's got to make sense to other people. And you have that kind of just, hey, anybody with common sense will pick this up. Well, you come to realization that not everyone thinks the same way, and people see different things, and people will want to ask different questions, and maybe you have asked yourself. So really, scalability is there's almost like a tiered approach to it, right? Just like Jeff was saying, right? You got to start something kind of small, right? So you have a test of power users, right? And you're looking for those guys because not only do they give good feedback, but they're also influential within their groups, right? These are the people that people come to. So if you get that guy, on board, you get that guy on team, hey, that's a big win, because now you can assume that the 15, 12 people that's working for him are going to be following that same kind of thing, because he's preaching that same mentality and same idea there. So you start with those power users, you get kind of the kinks worked out. Typically what we do here is we'll start grabbing in. We have so many departments. So like for instance, right now we're working on is some fancy floor support Revit families, nested families with all the components within it. But to get that, it's not going to be ready on day one. So we send it to power user, we get some input. We send it to a select group. So we just send it to the fitters for they can try it out before we send it to the plumbers, the process guys, all these different places. Yeah. So we can kind of get in a test bed. And once again, we're trying to work these things out as we go along. But when you get to the point where you're like, okay, this is ready for everybody. What I found out over the years is You got to have all your shit together, and not just the tools, but the documentation, the processes, where to find these things. And that needs to be set in place from day one, because as soon as you get people in there looking for things and not able to find them, or two people looking in different places, it all goes awry, right? Because now you have all things out there. You got people pulling stuff from one job to another because they can't find that place. So a lot of it for us was let's get a corporate place that we're storing everything that everybody in the company can get to. There's not an issue of rights or hey, a guy in Seattle goes to this spot. No, everybody goes to the same place to get the same information. But to do that, you have to have all that in place, but it allows us to scale those things up at some point, right? Because now hey, it's the place to go. But what I have to do then is if it ends up in that corporate place, I got to go make sure that every one of those offices, every department in one of those offices knows what it is, because I'm directing them to use it. They need to know it from A to Z, and I'm not there like I am here to walk over and go over someone's shoulder. Okay, this is the right way to do it. Oh, you're missing those kinds of things. So it's definitely the implementation part that is really the challenge. Development, I don't do development. I got guys that do development, and they seem to just kick ass. And if hey, this is what I'm looking for, they'll be able to make it happen. But I have to come to understanding not everyone's like them. I don't have 120 of them. I've got 5. So how do I get from that group and get the cores out to the masses?
Yeah. So I guess that was a question I had for you, Steve, but it seems like maybe you answered it a little bit. So it was. So obviously, you've got a BIM group, something that you're giving out to these PM cells that you're talking about. So I guess those PM cells, along with what you're providing for them, so they don't have like the ability to choose their own document management system, then, right? Like, are you providing that as well, or?
No, I got guys that use Procore. I got a guy like Smart Sheets. They're all over.
There you go. So,
and that's one of the fundamental issues that we have in detailing is like, hey, where's my current latest drawing set? Where's it coming? So that was actually something a couple of years ago where we did draw a hard line. No, I don't care if you're using Procore. I don't care what you're using. We're downloading the PDFs. We're putting it here on the server, because that's where detailers will go and look for it. It's not all over the place, and it's not varying from job to job, because what it does is it creates consistency, not just for that guy that it goes from job to job, but for like an assistant guy, right? A guy that's coming just to do shop drawings, right? Not everybody's lead detailer. A guy comes to do shop drawings, right? I can't have him go to some random place to find the drawings because a PM told him to put it there. That's not an efficient use of time. So part of it is like basically trying to help the PM help themselves by not making everything so confusing. But obviously there's some pushback, and in some ways it doesn't go 100%.
So Steve, does that still exist then? I mean, are you guys still providing for, I mean, they're your PMs, right? But I guess are you still providing for those individuals that are using different document management software platforms?
When you say provide, you mean like, am I setting it up for them and getting it going, or
whatever you're doing? I guess whatever
we're engaging with them.
So.
Yeah, we're engaging with them. But it's a conversation at a kickoff meeting. Hey, where do I find these things? Oh, go to Procore because I don't want to make a slip sheet set my own. The GT's already done it for me, or go to Smartsheet. All these different options out there, and everything that you guys ever heard of has been an option here at ACCO at some point in time. So I obviously had to get familiar with it, but it's not something that I enjoy getting more people involved with, because it's so different from one to the other.
Seems like you ought to have some pretty good case study evidence then, because I think you can take your output, Steve, which I think you would say is fairly standard, like what you're providing.
Yeah.
And you're providing it to all these different cells that are trying to manage it in their own way.
Yeah, exactly.
So but you ought to be able to know which way is better by now.
Right.
And we do. And that's my point, is we make recommendations to PM, right? We have at ACCO, we basically put together a whole detailing SOP, and everything in it is, hey, this is how we recommend you do RFI management. This is how we recommend you do shop drawing reviews. This is how we recommend you do seismic procedures to actually get the seismic modeled and coordinate all kind of stuff. We have recommendations. But a PM can still tell me, no, I prefer to do it my way. And we have to absorb that. But from my standpoint as a manager, is okay, we understand that there is some risk to what you're asking. Here's the risk with it, and at least explain to them up front, hey, you're going a little bit off the road, but this is what you're signing up for.
And they don't trust your evidence.
Right. The thing about ACCO is they sink or swim on their own, right? So if they decide to make a bad choice and they drown, I mean, that's part of the game with those guys.
What an interesting that one is interesting.
I am very stressed out by that answer.
I like to start off that. You know.
I'm hyperventilating about 5 different project management softwares. Oh God.
Well, like I said, it is always a challenge. I get to see a lot of variety out there.
Right.
And like I said, we see things that work out well, and that becomes kind of the recommendation.
Steve ought to have a very, very good report and understanding of comparison between those. It'd be interesting to see you put something like that together, because I think you have the ultimate focus group. Like, I think,
Right.
It's all over the place. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I could piggyback a little bit out of that. One of the things that I talked about last year, I think at the MEP innovation, was fatigue. So with all of, especially from like Steve, from your end, and Jeff, I can't wait to hear what you're doing in the lab and innovating all the time. But, you know, especially our BIM group, because they're in the middle of everything and they see 72 different GC PM methodologies. They see our 42 of our own internal. Like, how are you handling that innovation or that? I mean, I think app fatigue gets maybe a little over. I mean, most people are used to apps. We hate having to go to different ones, but the fatigue of and in both of you have talked about it. You're not just innovating using new technology. You're innovating by changing process. So how are you managing the fatigue that can build up with that? Steve, it looks like you're ready to go.
I'm trying to get it off the detailer's plate, like I was saying earlier. Like a lot of this stuff, if we're working with like a plan grid, right, it's really just taking our drawings and getting up to plan grid. That's more of an administrative type thing, right? So so yes, it's trying to get the stress off the detailers. And to your point, right, it's God, I'm going to box here, I'm going to drop box there. It kind of sucks, but if we have something interim and the detailer puts something in one spot, always on the server or the drive, and then they can just say, hey, upload it from here, and then you get a consistency. So it's taking the burden off them a little bit. But to be honest with you, there's always a bit of that.
Jeff, how are you handling?
Yeah, I'll follow on that. I have two answers to that. The first one is that like big wholesale implementation shouldn't happen all the time. Like, people shouldn't be constantly learning new software. They should be happy with it by, and work with it for a while and see that the decision that you made is the correct one, and then, or the incorrect one, but that never happens to me. And the second part of that is, I have a consultant that I've worked with forever named Will Maynor, and Will, in my opinion, is one of the most brilliant people as far as like doing innovation and software and BIM and all of that. And something he told me always kind of comes back to me, is that like in my position or in Steve's position or in probably most of your positions, you have to constantly be doing work to correct people's, not mistakes, but to take the load off of people so that they think that they're doing it and that things are going smoother than they are in the beginning. And I think it's something that everyone's been in a Revit model and connected things that weren't connected. Everyone has fixed piping in a model that was incorrect. Everyone has gone into Procore and moved things around so they could, have them in the spot they were supposed to be in. Everyone has gone into that add-in and looked at the code and tried to figure out, what the hell was going on and what were they thinking. And all of that is like stuff that we do so that everyone thinks that everything's running smoothly all the time, which it is never, and that's like the being in the model at 10 p.m., just making sure that everything's okay, because the guy that's drawing it has been in Revit for 6 months and is doing great, but he thinks he's doing awful. And so, and, things like that are big to like take I think what Steve said, taking it off of the people that are actually working with it every day and doing some of that yourself to take the burden off, or, even like uploading the initial model to the model viewer because you have to do a little more work for the first one. Stuff like that is huge. It really helps people to kind of settle into these things. And then once they're in it, that's when they'll eventually get to that point, and you need to make them get to that point faster than they actually can. And that's,
Well, you hit on a couple things there, Jeff, and I want to pull one out because there's this idea, and I think all of us have come across it, where like you're supposed to be the smartest person, right? You're supposed to have all the answers, and you actually leverage consultants. Yeah, Steve, you laugh.
Do you mean I didn't write every software we use?
Yeah, you wrote it. You
Oh.
wrote it all. You invented it all in your spare
Oh, okay.
time. You scaled it all, right?
Yeah.
But
Yep, I did.
you exactly you lean on other people, and there's this fear in our world, especially, of being like, I'll call it vulnerable. It's a weird word to use in our world. It's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know everything. Like, but wait, you're the director of this, or the mad scientist of that, or the construction technology. So you know it all, right? But none of us do. I mean, it's just not that case. So how do you deal with that and get that across to the organization that, hey, I still need consultants. I still need people to help me out. I need a different perspective. And then how do you leverage it?
So no one, I'm glad you said that. So everyone thinks that, if something goes wrong, I've been using Revit since Revit was a thing. Like I looked at it and was like, oh, I can learn this, and then people are going to have to use it, and I'll be the one that knows it. And I still see things that I'm like, I've never seen that message before. No idea what that exception is. Like, and those things are difficult to deal with because, like you said, everyone is like, well, all the programs. But that's like, but I don't. I know the tools that everyone uses every day, and I know how to manipulate those tools to work for people, but I don't know everything. And a lot of what we do is working with people. Like, a lot of my job is the people side of it. It's not the technology. I'm good with technology. I can do whatever you need, but it's getting people to use that technology that's the difficult thing. When you're a tech guy, you're not usually interacting with people when they're happy with the technology. Usually you're interacting with people when they're unhappy with the technology, which is a tough one. And so I really think that it really helps to have another voice and someone that sees other things, so that, someone can say, oh, well, I work for 5 other companies within a 100-mile radius, and they all have that problem too. And that is, oh, okay, well, Jeff was telling the truth. That we always joke that, like, I'll bring in a consultant, and everyone at the company jokes about it because they know it happens and it's true. But I'll bring in a consultant, and they could say the exact paragraph that I said the day before, and people will be like, oh, that is true.
Right.
Like, yeah, you're right. And it's like, and that's fine. These people, I've been with them for 5 years. They're like my family. Like, I get annoyed by them. I like them. I like hanging out with them. I don't like hanging out with them. It's like everything else. And when you bring someone in and they feel the same way about me. And when you bring someone in that isn't part of that and doesn't have the emotional side, like, that's what and I think that's kind of the whole, like, mad scientist thing to a T, is like, I am obsessed with everything. And like, I want to do everything. I want all of the technology. But I make my decisions based on the company. And when someone else comes in and is like, oh yeah, well, that is the way to do it, it really helps. I've been implementing Revit for 5 years, basically. And we're in Revit, but there's always things to learn and so recently we got a consultant that just teaches classes, and they'll take everyone over to the other building, not in the same building. I don't even go. I don't show up on purpose, because if they hear it from them and they're like, oh, Jeff showed us this, Jeff showed us this, Jeff showed us this, and they get that reinforced by someone else. It's not just me, like, pounding it in, I think that that's huge. And not even, like, we've been talking a lot about BIM, but not even just BIM. Like, I have done Trimble training myself, and I have done Trimble training where I sub it out to Trimble, and it's just different. People are too familiar with me. and things go off the tracks and things go, and then you get the consultant in and it's like, okay, well, here you go, guys. Like, you have 2 days, that's it, go for it. And usually that works out really well. And I used to have, as a younger guy, like, I had some, like you said, vulnerability. Like, I had some worries about, well, this guy's coming in and he knows it way better than I do.
Right.
Like, should I, and now it's like, thank God this guy knows it better than I do.
Yes.
Yes.
He can teach me, he can teach you, he can teach, and that I am all about that, because that's, in the end, that's what we do. Like, I didn't invent the robot dog. I just want to use it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And not to carry a fax machine from one place to another.
Yeah.
And that's the but it's knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
Right.
Those are the two different things. It's just the way it goes. But Steve, you probably have this on a different level because of I mean, you guys are starting to standardize, et cetera, but how do you look at it? Because it can be an attack or feel like an attack as you grow through the phases. And I think that's what Jeff was hitting on. As you go through the phases, like eventually at one point we were all worried it would take our jobs. Now you're looking at it differently. How's that been for you on the balance?
Well, I would say this, the first thing is I have no problem telling people that I don't know something because and that's because I always tell people, like, I've never hung a piece of duct in my life. I've never hung a piece of pipe. I've never cut a piece of pipe. Those aren't things, but I'll tell you how to draw a whole damn system pretty damn quickly, based on what I know. Do I know everything? Absolutely not. But at least I know enough to make myself change, I guess you'd say. But the reality of it is the vulnerability is, I won't say it's a little bit shared, but I mean, you got to think of it. Like Jeff said, we didn't write the software, right? We are dealing with somebody else's software. We're users of software. So a lot of those limitations that come from Autodesk, come from different people, fall down on us, right? But they know I don't write the software. And it's also, I think, a clear understanding, and I wouldn't say by myself, but just kind of industry as a whole. BIM is a part of the job that's growing, right? It hasn't been around for 50 years. These are things that are still being figured out, and the software is a key component with that. And it's going to continue to progress. I think what we can do at a minimum at this point is explain to them where the technology is, what's available to them, what it's missing, and be clear about it and say, hey, you guys may have some great ideas about where it could go, but unless we take on the actual activity of building the software and programming the software, we're always going to be a couple legs behind because we're dependent on other people to make that stuff work, So I'll be honest with you, I don't get too hung up when they tell me, hey, I want to see this. I hear all the time, hey, you said I thought you could just push a button and you get shop drawings. Well, no.
No.
I'm going to show you how we make shop drawings.
Magic button.
Part of it is just
not yet.
Export.
Not yet.
Exactly. So and that's what I'm saying, right? It's just proving some of that stuff out because they're smart guys. You bring them down here and you show them what you're doing. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know you had to do that. I didn't know the model wasn't annotated when you throw it in there. It's just a naked model. Okay, that's great. But having them come up to speed on that alleviates that issue down the road, right? Nobody's going to come back to me and be like, man, shop drawings will be done today. No, they know it's going to take a day or two to get out, things like that. So it's really, in my opinion, it's a lot of it just being transparent, being clear, and also going to conferences like this and telling them, hey, these are the things that other people are struggling with too. It's not just an ACCO problem. The industry is struggling with it, And
Steve, you did it. You did a shared pains. Now we owe Nathan money again. Dang it.
Yeah.
Shared pains. Dang you. No,
I filed CDX bankruptcy, so I can't pay him anymore.
No, but you're dead right. Like there's that imposter syndrome. Like I got to know it all. I got to do what I got to do. And that's not true, man. We don't have to do that. We're actually inventing most of this as we go. Like a lot of the software.
Wait, you guys all have that? You guys all have that imposter syndrome?
For sure.
Hell yes.
I'm pretty sure I'm the dumbest
Thanks,
person
guys.
in every room I walk into.
Yeah.
I walk out of every one going, shit, was that right?
Right.
I might actually
So
be
that ends-
All right, with Trent,
So
that's
that
true.
ends our
Well.
psychology podcast. Yeah.
Wait, are we having a therapy session now? Okay.
Definitely therapy.
And
session.
actually, can I segue for just a second? On September 15th at the CPC, so Nathan, we're paying you back here. We're actually going to touch on and talk
This
about
clears our debt.
Yeah.
Clear,
Talk
we're good.
about
All of her debt.
imposter syndrome. It's a true thing. You have it too, don't you, Jeff? You're like,
Oh.
you've been a hero of mine since I got into the business. And you're going, I'm not the best, aren't you?
Yes. Yes, all of the time, every day, all the time. Like even when you guys are like, "Oh, you have the best job ever," I'm like, "I know I do." Uh-oh.
Don't tell my boss.
Everyone's coming for it and they're going to
Right.
beat me. And you're like,
Yeah,
and we're all going, none of us can even come
None of
close
us
to
can
your
do that, yeah.
shoelaces.
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
same-
That's
but
very
that's
true.
the same way I feel. That's the same way I feel too. And I think that's what keeps us honest. You know, I think that we like that's one thing that we all like. One of the reasons we all get along so well when we hang out is because we all have that deep-seated shame.
Nate, not to keep patting Nathan on the back, but one of the things he said about me that held true, and I think it applies to all of us, is that we're the professional amateur. Like we walk into any situation, and we do all have our areas where we are the expert, but for most things that we touch in our roles, we are not the expert. We might be able to get you a tool, but like to your point, Steve, I've never put anything in the air. I don't know what the hell that job is. So being that professional amateur does kind of it opens you up to listening and looking for those opportunities because you've listened so much both internally and externally. So
I want to ask a question of that though. So to you, Steve, like a lot of what we find, and I'm going to go to a Sal and hopefully he listens to this at some point is like, it's far easier to teach somebody BIM and technology than it is to give them 30 years of experience in the field. So how do you pull field experience out and like apply it to this crazy technology that we're using? Is that like a thought or a process? I mean, I'm just spitballing now.
Oh, no, it definitely is. I would say we probably had a few more successes with the younger guys that are probably into the trades than some of the older ones. But we still have plenty of guys that are a little bit, in their 40s and 50s and like that. But for the most part, it's seeing the aptitude for understanding the job beyond installation, I guess you'd say, right? Understanding drawings. Can they read architectural drawings? Can they read structural drawings? When you get into the detailing realm, it's not just, hey, can you hang duct? You know where to put duct. You're interacting with so many other parties, other trades. You got to have some knowledge with them, or else you spend a lot more time than you should be, modeling and coordinating. So it's a bit of that. I'll be honest with you, we've kind of gone both ways. We've had some people that CAD guy out of school, just really savvy on a computer. I've actually learned that it's not that easy to teach some people the computer. In some cases, it's actually easy to teach people. But that program of learning a trade needs to be somewhat systematic, right? I'm not grabbing a guy out of high school drawing CAD and putting him on the job. He's going to help out doing shop drawing to start. He may spool to start. When he gets to the point where he's drawing a model, he's heavily supervised, Or what actually the way I was trained was they slapped me next to a general foreman. Right. And I told him, hey, I'll draw whatever you want me to draw. Tell me what you want me to draw. And probably tell me a little bit about why. So I don't have to ask these questions down the road. But that's really it, right? It's just put my expertise together with somebody else's expertise, and the two of us will make a hell of a team, because you're taking that 30 years and literally bombing to me as I draw this thing out. That's the most successful, but there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I have always heard that it's easier to do to teach a guy a computer, but like I said, I've seen it both ways, to be honest with you.
I agree with you, Steve. I've seen it where, maybe it is easier, but you also look at what's the influence that individual is receiving in his work. So,
sure.
Who are they producing for? They're producing for that guy in the field, right? So what feedback are they going to get? I guess I would argue the instruction they're going to get is going to be all field instruction. So so maybe the computer stuff is more important than we think, because that guy in the field is not going to teach him, oh, well, you should have clicked this button and you would have given me what I wanted.
Right.
He's actually going to say, no, dumbass, I needed that fitting. You should have given, I
play a lot of fantasy football. And one of the things that they always talk about is a floor and a ceiling. All right. So when you get a guy that comes in that's a little bit older and can barely use a computer but knows the trade really well, what's his ceiling as a detailer? Right? Yeah, he knows everything about it, but how fast and efficient is he going to be? As where if I get some guy in that just knows a computer and knows how to click around it and will will look for opportunities to work around or to save clicks because he's a little bit more savvy. Hey, I'm going to program my mouse so I don't have to click this thing every time on my shortcuts. That guy's efficient.
Yep.
I can get somebody to oversee what he's doing. So his ceiling is actually a little bit higher because I can get more out of him. I just need to have a little more training with him.
There's some truth there. Yeah.
So
Jonathan?
I've got a question for both of you. So when we said Mad Scientist episode, man, my brain went off and it was really just you two. And there was a reason, because like when I'm looking for like hardware and tech science, I'm thinking about Jeff's lab. And when I'm looking to try to understand the other side of it, I'm looking at Steve's, because Steve has the biggest range in my mind of different people that he has to work with. Like, unless you're a consultant and a really good one, you don't work with as many different companies as Steve does, project managers. You don't have that range of people knowledge. And honestly, unless you live in the candy store, you don't have as much hardware available to you as Jeff. But since this is the Mad Scientist episode, what's cooking in your labs? And it can be people or it can be hardware, but what's cooking in the lab that you're actually like freaking out about? And honestly, you're kind of looking to every time you go in the morning to say, can I carve out some time to work on my pet project, which is, Jeff, maybe you go first on this one.
Yeah, great. So I'll just run down the list of all 100 and then you guys can.
Hold on, I'm
so
taking notes.
Right. So, we got it recording. Don't worry about it.
As like we were talking about prior to starting, like I've gotten really obsessed with a lot of venture capitalists in a bad way. And so all of the tech that they're making for all different types of companies I want. And so something that I'm really into is process tracking. And also, like, one of the huge things that I think our industry altogether needs to get much better at is warehouse management and production management. If you look at we're basically outputting as much product as any other type of production company that exists. I've been looking a lot at Volvo. I like their management. I like the way that they do their innovation. I like the way that they track their processes, that they'll shave 3 or 4 seconds off something by changing an entire workflow around, but it ends up being worth it at the end when they're getting minutes back. And time is money. But so to get like more specific, so I really like Zero Key, which we had talked about prior, which is sonar based location. And so you can use that for anything. You name something, you can use it. You can use it for keeping inventory. You can use it for tracking production. You can wear wristbands and have people that are in zones. One of the coolest things I saw that they did was they were on an oil rig and they would make safety zones where if someone crossed into that safety zone. So as you're working, different zones become safety zones that are do not enter zones. And those zones are live updated. So they don't know where they are, but their bracelet beeps and goes red and they have to get out of that zone, and stuff cool. Like that, I think is something that, it's awesome.
That's a I'm pausing you for 1 second. That was a thing I heard people 7 years ago talk about as a theoretical CAS zone that automatically alerted you. You're saying right now, today, 7 years ago, that predicted the future.
Yeah. Yes. And there's like 3 to 5 companies that, I won't mention outright, Black & Decker, that have tried to do that and, never really came to market or never really. And so now,
all right. That's been fun, guys.
That's J. Elwell at Duggan.
Did you just dox him? Come on, man.
No doxing.
I think that, and there's a lot of others, Oracle did something with it. There's a bunch of people that were trying. And the big thing that we do is we work with so much metal that it's really hard to get some of those things to work and to have them work efficiently. And I'm also a DeWalt guy. That's just so everyone knows.
All right, we're good again.
so that I'm all about that, and it's something that's kind of something that I always try to think, like, what are the little things that we don't do well? Like, we're basically like, all of us are working for a company that has like 5 little companies inside of it. And so you have a design company, and you have a manufacturing company, and you have a field company, and all of those people are trying to ship a product, down the line, and create it and make it and ship it and install it. And so, like, tracking that, I think, is a huge thing that not many people are doing. And I think it's something that's going to be big in the coming years. And then something that I've always been thinking about is layout. So, core hole layout. Total station, everyone uses a total station, but in my opinion, it's like toilet paper. Like, we got a design, and we've kept it for as long as we can, and we're not changing it. And
what's your new design on toilet paper?
No, that's what I mean.
I want toilet paper innovations as the next show. Sorry, go back. I didn't mean to.
Me too.
Rapidly
imposter
dissolving.
Imposter syndrome toilet innovation. So on the next episode, everyone tune in. So no, but I just mean, like, I think it works well, but I think that we could, like, even Jonathan, you've been doing awesome stuff with AI, and even if you can know where a point is and then go mark it within that, 64th of an inch, that's even better. Just getting people to those spots quicker, shaving time off, stuff like that. And then the other thing that I'm going to mention, it's just one of my favorite plugs and things to talk about, and me and Trent did something at the MCAA on it, is like I've said before in this, is easy wins. So just like, I am always looking for that, like, thing that's going to save an hour that takes 5 minutes to do. And that's, all of those things are things that we're not always thinking about, things that we're not, always looking at. Like, me and Trent did something on pre-filled forms. So just any of your pre-test plans, filling them out before, and then just signing them in the field. Like, that saves you get your day started a half hour earlier. Stuff like that is just, it's so easy to grab, and people will love you for it more than finding the new product, more than, any of that stuff. So yeah, those are my things. And then, as always, BIM add-ins, like my Revit ribbon. I think we're on ribbon number 2 right now for EM Duggan. Like, you have to click to the EM Duggan 2 ribbon because we have so many add-ins. But it's just like what Steve was saying, you have things coming from all angles, people asking for everything. And what's better than, giving everyone everything they want, customized, exactly. And so that's no program is going to do it. But if you have someone that can change it on the fly, or you can do it yourself, that's the biggest. And then you did write the program, so they can give you a hard time about it. But
yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, how about you, man?
Okay, I jotted down a couple here. One of the big ones I'm working on right now is it's to take some effort out of the detailing game, but standardized details that could potentially be reviewed by seismic engineers, pre-stamped kind of a thing. We spent a lot of time working out, support details, things like that they have to send back and forth, but we're making the same thing every time. So it's like, hey, how do we get a system here where actually we're not creating the same drawings every time throughout the whole company, right? We do a little bit here in some regions, but how do we take advantage of that across the board? Once again, it's trying to take more of that I'll call it dummy work, but busy work away from detailing, right? Because it's just literally making something into a 2D drawing. So we were working with seismic vendors to actually provide us what we're calling a seismic calculator, where once we put in loads in there, it's automatically going to tell us the members that we need to have in there, and then we're able to go put that into a Revit family, pull it out a lot more efficiently than having to go back and forth, get things calculated by hand, things like that. So it's a bit of the process in there. We've been working on a BIM estimation form. That's probably the one that keeps me up at night. It's we tried to break BIM down into its core components and try to basically say, what are the activities that happen during production, during coordination, during deliverables? What is that deliverable package? What is that? And then some drivers for it, right? So production is really based on the amount of stuff we got to draw, right? You got to make assumptions like, hey, I'm drawing it out for the first time. Coordination is really a matter of time, right? How long is the coordination going to last? How many people do you need to have on that coordination cycle? Deliverables a little bit more of a function of once again, scope, how much there is in a building. But then each one of those have risks to it, right? Population modeling, there's a lot of risks, or there's added time if you need to draw around existing systems, or the drywall is already on board, so you got to miss kickers. In coordination, there's 30 different factors that could affect your production. So really, what we're trying to do is almost create almost like a smackness scorecard for BIM, to say, hey, look, your project, you're guessing it is with these many hours. Well, if you put all of your things into these risks, this is your risk. This is where, hey, you're working with a general contractor we've had issues with in the past. We're working with, a seismic, a design team that doesn't answer RFIs as quickly as possible. Therefore, we know it's going to stretch. So what's that risk factor? And then does that affect that original bid number? So we're trying to create a system in place to at least evaluate our BIM budgets before they go out the door for pricing and things like that. Jeff talked about it. We're putting together a ribbon. We're about halfway, 3/4 of the way through it. Our issue was that we had ribbons all over the places with cool tools that some guys had over here, some guys did. This guy's got a fancy Dynamo script that automates all the point loads. Yet I got a guy up here in North California that's still doing point loads by hand, the old way. So getting that all together and getting that on a ribbon, that's a big one for us. And then kind of field tech, we've been looking at kind of what Jeff was talking about as well, is replacing some of the Trimble. We've been looking at robots to do some layout. We actually will print down on the floor, whether that be for cans, whether that be for hanger placement. Finding limitations with that, right? Since it's a robot's rolling the floor, what do you do for queue decking? Is there certain applications it works, other applications it doesn't? But that one we've already started doing some testing on, and we're finding that's a bit faster than doing Trimble.
What's weird about that is, I bet you if you talk to Jeff, he can find you. I think if he's talking to all the VC guys, I can think of 4 robots that right on the floor right now that are all going after the same prize. Exactly. And that's kind of what we've seen too, which is kind of cool in my opinion, because it's hey, that guy's doing that over there. What are you going to do? And you kind of pit them against each other. Hopefully that drives down price someday.
Wine and dine me.
Exactly, right? Feels like wine and dine, right?
Yeah. Steve, peanut butter banana sandwiches in water. You're good. That's what we're gonna do.
Steve, what's your drive? What's the real drive to figure out this BIM budget that you're talking about? Is this to estimate work for groups outside of yourself, or these individual cells, or is this strictly for tracking and manpower loading for your team?
It definitely comes into manpower, but really what it is to help more of our junior PMs potentially that don't have as much experience with BIM, and just treat it as a line item. Oh, it's 5% of cost, just because that's what I think it's going to be, because they haven't experienced it, which we have a lot. We have a lot of PMs here in Northern California. A lot of people have been experienced with me, but guys up in Seattle, guys up in Sacramento, guys up in Nevada, they haven't gone down that road with BIM before. So not only is that estimate important, but the whole SOP too about how ACCO does that work kind of goes hand in hand with that estimate, right? Because built into that estimate is assumptions of, hey, this is the deliverable package. This is exactly
right.
So really, it's more geared internally to kind of at least, like I said, help assess the risk associated with BIM on the project. Gotcha. Maybe it's a really poor design. There's a shitload of, you look at design models and nothing's coordinated, right? That tells me right off the bat, you got some risk there, because you're going to have to do recoordination during detailing, right? Which is going to be more.
That's a good point. And I think you're in a unique situation to where you guys have to kind of to figure that out for your different cells. So I think we treat it more as a labor for labor. So we don't worry about it as much.
And we've gone down that road, and sometimes it's successful, but I think where it goes askew is when you're dealing with all these changes and unforeseen conditions that just weren't visible up front, when you're getting into that. So like I said, coordination taking 2 or 3 months longer than it would. There's not really any way to assess that and evaluate it. So that percentage of labor, we've had jobs that go 20-25%, and you ask why, what's going on with this one? And it's, we had all these changes. Well, now when we run that risk and we say, okay, there's some risk here because this thing isn't well coordinated, that tells me as a manager, I need to check in with that PM pretty often. I need to check in with that detailing team pretty often to see how it's going.
What's your PM's reaction to a 25% of labor?
Not good, Trent.
I know what it is to a 12%.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, that's the point, right? But when I see 25%, I know that job's been mismanaged. Right.
Exactly.
Because,
I mean, that's what one of the reasons that we do it too is
cracks.
one of the reasons we're starting to dig into it too is like, well, CAD never hits its budget. Well, maybe you're doing the budget wrong.
Mhm.
So let's really put some
Well,
thought into how we're tracking it.
But
and
the
break it
shop
all
and
down.
field killed it. But CAD just really they just blew it. I don't know.
Well, that's important too. And I think we talked about this MCA the other day, where it's like, that budget together, that detailing budget, it's really a field function. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's like you're literally taking work away from the field. So that detailing and field should kind of be the same. And my fitter supervisor or my superintendent tells me all the time. He goes, "Don't worry if you run over hours. I'll just pull some out of the field, because I know there's enough there for the whole thing." So
Right.
what's it matter if we're spending a little bit more in detailing? I know that every hour I'm spending here is going to save me 3 in the field. So yeah,
You're hopefully still accomplishing scope.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Exactly.
I want you to say that again. Every hour I do in here is saving me 3 in the field.
You hope.
You hope. Yeah.
And I tell people, if we're not doing that, we're not doing this right.
Right.
What is the value of what we're doing if we're not accomplishing something like that? Because if not, I'm not going to get a guy in from the field and hand stick some stuff.
So if it's 1 for 2, you just say no.
Yeah, no, gotta be 3.
Gotta be 3.
I got standards, man.
2.37. 2.37.
I can round, but I guess.
Well, I think
Good
that I
point.
mean we
Good point.
bring that up on the show, and I think that we all hit it. We sometimes forget that those are our ultimate customers in the end is serving the field. So anything that we can do internally to help what they're doing to be more efficient and safe and everything like that. So it's always really good to reiterate that.
I agree with that, but there's also custom requests, I guess.
Sure, right.
I got a field guy that wants this on the job. Oh man, I really want this, but then we really have to look at it and say, okay, what's the value of what we're doing to make sure? Because if there's a value to it, then why aren't we doing it all the time? That's
Right.
the question you got to ask.
Yeah.
You step over dollars to pick up pennies.
Right.
Constantly.
So it sounds like Jeff's giving us the hook here. So I kind of have a question, and we'll see which direction it goes. But mine is more like, I'm mad as hell. I'm mad. What is making you mad about either construction's perception of innovation in what we do? What is making you mad about the technology field? Just tee off here a second, and Jeff, don't name names.
Hi. So someone came up and was shooting the shit with me the other day, one of the senior PMs, and he said to me, and you guys might want to just end the show right after this, but he said something along the lines of, well, I mean, you've never made any money for this company. And so like the next day, I went and gave him the write-up that I spent all night doing on the exact ROI of my time at the company. But I think that the big thing is that, where I know that if used correctly, the things that we're doing, and like what Steve said, I love that 3 hours, 1 hour in the office is 3 hours in the field, because I think that's completely right. Like, I think that we are punching bags most of the time. I think that I do everything except for change the toner until I have to change the toner. And I think that, like, at the same time, like, all I want is to make everyone's life easier. And I'm getting things like I'm the one that invented Revit, or that I'm the one that made the program, or that I'm the one that sent that awful model, or that if we could do a whole podcast on why I'm mad about the design models we get, and
I think we did that already.
And that's the toughest part, is that it's not woe is me, because I love what I do and I could deal with it every day of my life, but it is like I'm not a miracle worker. My job is to pick what the best thing is to make your life easier, and then teach you how to use it. And if it doesn't make your life easier, there's no point in doing it. And bad feedback is still feedback. By training, like by schooling, I am an art guy. And one of the things that I took out of the art industry and the design industry, like graphic design, is that it's not like something's good or bad. It's something works or it doesn't work. And I have no problem with you telling me that something doesn't work. That's my job, is to make it work or find something better that actually works or make something better that works. But when it's like when it's that I should have known better, or that it's not, like, technology is a crapshoot, and we're like, for the last 5 or 10 years in the wild west of technology and construction, like none of anything we're using existed 20 years ago. And so it's like we're all, coming from a place where we know it better than most, but like it's still something that, like you guys said earlier, I don't know everything. I try to know everything. I can run every piece of equipment at the company, but I can't do it better than the people that do it every day, And that's the thing, is that, like, it's not. I feel like it's a very personal thing, and I came from engineering where your deadlines were a year away, and now construction is your deadline is now. And everyone
yesterday,
and everyone has that stress of, like, everyone you talk to all day. Like I said earlier, like, you as a tech guy don't talk to people at their best moment ever. You're talking to them at something needed to go out 4 hours ago, and they're still getting the same error message, or the machine still won't work, or this still won't. I've looked into, like, mechanical suits, like exoskeletons that you can wear on the job site. But imagine the second someone has 1,000 pounds of black steel over their head, and then it throws an error message, and they have to call me, and I have to go to Zendesk and talk to the person at that, how much more angry they're going to be with me than they are when their add-in for Revit doesn't work. And so that's like, I didn't do any of this. I didn't invent it. I'm just trying to find stuff that'll make our company a better company. And sometimes that gets lost in the mix when every deadline is like Trent said last year, and the things I pick, that can really come back to bite you. I'm sure Steve and all of you have war stories of, well, I thought this technology was good, but it didn't scale, or it didn't,
Jeff,
like
said it so well.
there are so many that, or like when I used it, it was awesome, but it's way too complicated. That's something that's like not everyone is going to sit down at their house for 10 or 12 hours and drink beers and figure out how to use the new this, and that's
that,
like,
all of us have.
Right.
Yeah, all of us have, though,
right.
too.
People
People don't know that. We go
That's
home and spend 5 to 10 hours biting into some of this technology. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is your personal time, too.
I bet John and Travis can show Slack logs with me that I can prove to my employer if they don't believe me. It's
geez. Yeah.
Yep.
So Steve,
I've laid out points in my basement more times than I would like to admit.
How many people have a scan of their house? How many people have 15 scans of their house?
Nathan, raise your hand virtually, please, because we know you do.
Yeah, Nathan.
But
Steve.
Yeah.
So I would say it make me mad, but I get frustrated on these things. Well, first one is misleading information from software vendors.
That never happens.
Yeah,
No.
I just still can't believe of like yes, talking about a demo goes well. Oh, this is ready to go for you. Just plug it in. It's good to go, and it never works out that way. And it's also a question of who hears it, right? Because what we're finding is architects, general contractors that hear Revit's capabilities and all these kinds of things. All that does is put a person like me in the doghouse, and I come and tell them, well, it doesn't really work the way you think it works, and it's not as efficient as you think it works, and to come in there even a year ago and say, hey, we're going to do this job in CAD rather than Revit. It's like, well, what do you mean, man? We just got back from AU. This thing is rocking. We've seen it in action. Well, have they actually used it on a job? Have they tried to fabricate from it? Is it really more efficient? Because a guy from Autodesk probably hasn't gone through the whole gauntlet of a job, right? So that's definitely one. The other one kind of, it's still frustrating to me is BIM schedules as a whole, just how that fits within a schedule. We still have jobs that do not have a LOD 400 and a detailing, coordination phase. So they're coming right out of design. Everybody thinks that they're done, and I'm the guy that's got to raise their hands and go, we're not. We got a bunch of time that we've been telling you about for 6 months that has to happen. This is not done, but nobody really wants to acknowledge it. And I'm not just talking about like a new general contractor. I'm talking about the same general contractor and the same project exec on the job, from job to job to job. And every time I have to have the discussion, what about LOD4? And you know we have to detail this job. It has to be fabricatable. What you're looking at in Revit from an engineer is not fabricatable. Hell, it's not even constructible, most likely. So having that understanding, for me, have done this for 16 years now. It's frustrating to me that we still have that conversation. That it's not that the actual process of the steps that we have to go through to get a final fabricatable piece it's still gray to people. It's still vague. It's still people, in my opinion, it's people trying to take advantage of a cheaper way to build a model and just run with it and let's go fab it. And it doesn't work out in the field that way. As you guys all probably all attest to, right? You take an engineer's model, you throw it on the field, you're probably going to pay 2-3 times the price that you'd have done if you had done it 400. And it's just, but they think that we are trying to insert ourselves and stretch things out. We're actually just trying to get them in the correct workflow for the project.
Very well said.
All right,
Well
we're
done.
gonna drop the
There it
mic.
is.
I had to come in and hit it. We're gonna drop the mic because, well, actually, this episode could go on for quite a while. I also would like you all to go back to episode 22. A predictable revolution never erupts. If you want to learn a little bit more from us on those VCs that Jeff has been having so much fun with, we got to plug ourselves once in a while.
Right.
I think I also want to rename construction technologists to the new construction technology cowboys, right? It's a little bit of pressure. It's a little bit of going under the wire. It's a little bit of going outside of it. You don't like it?
My IT guy calls me the tech dragon.
I like the tech dragon.
I
kind of like the tech dragon.
That's way
Tech dragon. Tech dragon it is. No,
hey, man,
actually,
until you get introduced that way. Yeah.
Can I make one final comment? Because you guys said one thing that I didn't get to comment on. You said 1 hour equals 3 in the field. I can tell you that on a lot of jobs, it ain't that. It's 1 hour in planning equals 20 fucking hours in the field. I mean, there are so many times where that's the case and people don't see it. 1 hour in that mechanical room saved you 20 hours in the field. So like we low grade ourselves a lot. That's one where I wish we'd start. I've heard that same number for years. I wish we'd bump it up.
But we don't have time to wait on your hour.
Yeah, right. You're right, Jeff. We could talk forever. You're gonna have to just you're gonna have to shut the door.
And we're not live.
And we are and we're no longer sponsored. Oh wait, we weren't in the first place. So hey, Jeff, Steve, you guys have been inspirational since the beginning. It's been awesome to follow you guys, listen to you guys. Keep having imposter syndrome, keep pushing the industry forward. Jeff, at some point, I think we have to do like a beard progression from the beard down to the no beard, back to the beard.
Dude, do you remember Jeff with long hair? I remember the long hair.
I remember the long hair.
All, man. I mean, this is the way it goes.
Tech Jesus.
Tech Jesus. Wow.
I saved. Yeah.
I saved, therefore I BIM. There we go. Hey, listen, this has been episode 32 of the Dorks.
One of them.
I guess it's still better than BIM. SPTV people. We are mad about innovation. We're mad about you listening. We're mad about seeing you in person. We're also stoked that you guys listen in. So thank you for another awesome week. This is the Construction Dorks, and we're out.
Nerds! I was instantly on the phone like, no, I did not apply for a $500,000 loan. Did someone else apply? And like literally
that's why I got turned down.
Motherfucker.
New card number there.
No, so I'm still talking to that maniac. That guy is awesome.
He is. Yeah. Like
he is like 2 steps away from like supervillain.
Right on.
I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I love him.
There is there is a cutoff, man. Like there is like literally they get up to a certain point of intelligence, and then it's supervillain from there on up. We have nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
We're all talked out. We've been the three of us have been talking for 4 days now.
Right.
Pretty much sick of one another. And
does everybody else see the practice session? That's new. Is that?
Yeah, it'll say that until we go live. Until you said, and we're live, and then it switches over.
I didn't know that. You mean
they got AI in there listening for that?
Still need to do my Jeff bot. I don't know how we're gonna.
You still got the soundboard, right? Can you take clips of him talking and put it into your soundboard?
Probably. It would be a lot cooler than the.
Hey,
Steve, I thought you worked in contracting, dude.
Was that?
I thought you worked in contracting. Like you can drink at the office.
Yeah, well, I swear to God, I haven't been here, but I come here like maybe once a week. Where we're not opening back up until the 13th September. So I'm very rarely here. So I took my bottle of scotch out, took it home, because
say the PM start at noon usually.
Yeah, right.
No, it's all for Duggan. I mean, I'm doing it for all of you. So that next time I see you, I could say like, "Oh, look what I have." But yeah,
you don't have to
Duggan.
do that. We all want your job. You know that, right?
We have I believe me. I know. I completely understand.
It's
Wonder
better than
sometimes
BIM.
myself.
Still better than BIM.
I wonder. Well, so now I'm also the BIM manager for the interim because apparently it's fast food workers and BIM managers that can't be found anywhere.